All right, thanks everyone for joining today. Let's see. Let's go through the approval of last week's minutes. If we can. Apologies for not submitting this sooner. I did it like, I don't know, 30 minutes ago or so. These are the minutes as they are currently stated in the Google Doc. Any objection to the approval of the minutes in their current form? All right, I hear none. Any new attendees today? Let's take a look. Nope. Welcome everyone. Few announcements as Samita alluded to or mentioned. Philippe has signed his membership for About Code to join Ecma International. I talked with Philippe yesterday. Was it yesterday? My days are really blurring. I think it was yesterday. The decision was made that we are going to have a cadence of every 3 weeks for TG2. So every 3 weeks, there'll be a TG2 meeting. Obviously, the first orders of business will be to work on the Perl document, to work on the VERS document, and then finally to start tackling the governance processes and ongoing maintenance of the Perl types. But first and foremost is the Perl standard itself. So again, the meeting cadence will be every 3 weeks. Additionally, is Ole on the phone or Paul? No, he's not. During today's or this week's Koala meeting for the Transparent Exchange API, we will continue to meet. I think it's bi-weekly is our cadence for that. We will continue to meet every other week, and then what we want to do there for TG1 is to have a monthly call. And there's things that TG1 can start working on today that is independent of the specification that the community is trying to drive. So both of these efforts can actually happen in parallel, which would be great.
Sorry, Steve, what was the meeting that was going to be bi-weekly?
That's the Transparency Exchange API. So that's Project Koala. That work will feed into TG1. So that we currently meet every other week. The invite is in the OWASP community calendar for supply chain. Let me know if you need a link to that. But the community meets every other week. And then a decision was made during this week's call that we would have a TG meeting, TG1 meeting once a month for that.
Steve, will you also want to record the TG1 meetings and keep that as a record?
I believe we do, yes. We want to, even though it's a little bit informal compared to the TC meetings, we want to keep the same kind of structure in place. In fact, we have 2 new repositories. So if you go to, and I think Jan created the repositories, I think this week. We've got a TG1 repo and a TG2 repo that we will use to store our minutes and other kind of documents that relate to the TG specifically.
Thank you. Would you circulate, or do we, if everybody knows the repo, perhaps I just don't, but if we can just add it to the minutes, the repo, that would be great.
Yeah.
And for TG2, that you will have a cadence of every 3 weeks, will you start that already next week as your start of the meeting?
I will probably start it in, yeah. Well, the first meeting, yeah, I believe Philip wanted to start it next week. So I'm actually waiting for, did I get an invitation from him yet? I might have. I need to check my email. He was supposed to send out an invite for that. We're going to be publicizing this on LinkedIn as well. So we're trying to get as many folks involved as possible for TG2, which is Pearl.
And you will also record those meetings.
Yeah. So Philippe has, we're going to be using Google Meet, which no longer has the free option to record. However, Philippe does have a commercial license to that, so he will be. The plan is to record those meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that's kind of the update on TG1 and TG2. As Samina mentioned, the document was submitted. There was an unexpected, I guess, large amount of manual effort that actually had to go into massaging the document. It seems a little fragile how our current process is to get it into a Word document that then is acceptable to then convert to that final PDF. As one exercise later in the year, I want to investigate the feasibility of using a couple different potential options to help us automate future versions of the CycloneDX standard. I don't think we're going to have this issue with like Pearl. I don't think we'll have this issue with the API. The API is all greenfield. Pearl is, it's human text already. But we will continue to have this issue with CycloneDX. So I want to investigate as a group other publishing or other ways to not publish, other ways to author the standard going forward. And there's a couple different authors. Samina mentioned one to me a few weeks back. I was looking at another method, but as a group, I'd like to be able to come to some kind of consensus later this year on how we're going to move forward with future versions of CycloneDX standard.
Steve, that's a very good idea. And I just to comment, I will be discussing with that one option that I mentioned for TC39. I will keep you and the committee abreast of how we move forward there. If it is also an agreeable solution or aligns with your requirements, then we may have something that's efficient for 2 TCs.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good. I think the most important order of business is now that we've gotten over the hump of reviewing all of the features and enhancements, changes to the specification. We've gotten over the hump of reviewing the entirety of the specification. So first of all, thank you for your ongoing attendance and collaboration in this effort. But all that is done now. So we can't necessarily celebrate yet, right? The GA meeting is was it next week or the week after? It's coming up.
It's next week, Wednesday.
Next week, Wednesday. Okay. There's no need for us to continue the weekly cadence that we have today. So I'd like to discuss and decide starting next week, decide on a cadence and duration of that cadence going forward. So does anybody have any opinions on what they would like to see in terms of a cadence, whether it's every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever it is?
So if you can hear me, first question. Sorry, I'm sat on the train. Definitely bad. What would it be that we would discuss in those meetings going forward? And that said, I'd love to keep the meeting next week just to hear the outcome of the GA.
I heard the outcome. What is going to be the outcome of these meetings? I really didn't catch the beginning, Lars. I apologize.
If I may, Steve, for the outcome of the GA next week on the Wednesday, I will make it available to everybody immediately. So as soon as the GA is over, we announce the approvals. So certainly through email or message, you will know, but we may, if you wish to have our meeting on the Thursday, to do a verbal update with the committee. I think that was the question. But should we
Okay.
keep our
All right.
meeting next week?
Got it. I necessarily know that there's a need to keep next week's meeting. I know Samina is going to be very busy next week. And really the only update, I think the update can be provided in the Slack, honestly, unless somebody really wants to meet next week. I think we can probably not have next week's meeting. Question 1. So Lars is typing his question, so thank you for that. Question was that we discuss what would we discuss in the meetings going forward. Got it. So the TGs ultimately report up their progress or lack thereof to the TCs. So one of the things that we're going to be doing in the TC meetings is just kind of reviewing the updates from the individual task groups, and if there's any kind of corrective action or any, or not corrective, if there's any kind of guidance that we need to provide the TGs, that is kind of what we can discuss there. So it's an update from the TGs and any kind of feedback to those TGs. We'll also be able to provide updates for ongoing work that's happening in CycloneDX. We will be standing up later this week 3 different feature working groups for CycloneDX 1.7. One feature working group is we're calling it Blueprints. It's the combination of what we call ABOM, or architectural bill of materials, plus the addition of BOB, or bill of behaviors. Essentially, these two concepts go together to describe what something does and how it does it. Another feature working group we'll have is on open source sustainability and being able to describe certain fields with that. The third working group that we'll have is on threat modeling bill of materials. So we've got the entirety of the threat modeling industry, from the individuals, the companies, the open source projects to support the threat modeling industry today, collaborating on or supporting a common standard going forward. So we can, during those TC calls, we can get updates from those feature working groups as well. Question 2 was whether we'd like to keep next week or celebrate it. Yes. Fine with a no. Is if there's any objection to like, if people really want to meet next week, we can, but I think we can probably provide the update asynchronously.
And I am more than happy to set up the call if everybody wants to, but I will provide the information as soon as I have. I just want to make one last comment. Through the Ecma opt-out period that we have, I have not received any issues regarding IPR policy patents of any form. So I just, if you have anything that comes on your channels through Slack or through the OWASP blog, do let me know. The opt-out period ends exactly the day of the General Assembly.
Got it. So next Wednesday.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so at that point, then it's fine to remove the notices then? Like we got the notice on the repo, for example.
Exactly. So it should be there
Okay.
for 60 days. Thank you.
Okay, very good. What is the general opinion on in terms of cadence, right? We're skipping next week's meeting. Here, no objection to that, so that's great. Should we meet once a month? Any particular cadence people want?
Monthly sounds good to me. It's a great idea. Let's
Okay.
do that.
Meet monthly. Any objections to meeting monthly?
Monthly is a great idea. Can you pick a day monthly that maybe after the TG1 and TG2, so there's a short update so people know how that's starting up in the get-go.
Got it. Okay. No objection from Lars as well. I hear no other objections to monthly. In terms of how long we want the meeting to go, do we want to keep an hour? Do we want more than an hour?
What do you suggest?
At this point, I don't know what I don't know. You know, I don't know what kind of updates we'll have from the TGs yet. Initially, I don't expect a lot of updates. I think the updates from the feature working groups, I can comment on that. The updates from the feature working groups should be fairly short and sweet. What we can theoretically do on those is provide a deck, right, to kind of like a 2 or 3 slide deck to kind of show like progress or changes since the last update. That should go fairly quick. If there's other things that TC needs to talk about, for example, the publishing method, or the authoring method going forward, I don't know how long that conversation will last. I mean, some of this can happen asynchronously, obviously. I would imagine an hour is probably okay, but again, I don't know what I don't know.
Okay, sounds good if we start with an hour and then, you know, end early if we just don't have enough to discuss, right?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Following that, then we could make it shorter if that is reliably shorter.
Okay. I will, I need to look at my calendar, like I said earlier. I think Philippe sent me an invite. I need to dig it up in my email. That will be for TG 2. TG 2, yeah. And I will get with Ole as well to schedule the TG1 meetings as well. So the next, what I'll do is I will cancel this TC meeting going forward, and then the next TC meeting will probably be in about a month ish. Does everyone want to keep the same time? Is this time good for everyone? Got a thumbs up from Jan. It's good for Lars. Okay. All right. I mean, we're all meeting right now, so I got a thumbs up from Dennis. Okay. What we'll do then is we'll keep the exact same time. We'll meet a month from now. So I'll cancel this invite. I will create a new invite that you know, for a month from now going forward. So expect that in your inbox. Let me know if you don't receive it for whatever reason.
Steve, question, would you all
yeah.
like to use the same platform as we're doing with Zoom so we can record? Do you have a preference of a different platform?
This is perfect.
So I would like to set up a new link for the new meetings. Would that be all right with everybody? So we don't use the same link that we're using for Zoom now. So I may set it up a little bit better in case if I can't start it, somebody else can, like Steve.
Yeah, ideally myself, Alyssa, Dan, because you know Ecma.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's really all I wanted to bring up today. So, does anybody have any questions on, you know, the updates? Any concerns?
There's a question on the link from Lars about the next date. On chat, please. I think it's mentioned, I think July.
July 18th, is that 18.7? Is that what he means?
July 18th for the next date. I believe that must be a Thursday.
Yes. Actually, you know what? I'm actually not going to be available that day. But yeah, if we're gonna have updates from the TGs or the feature working groups, I'm not going to be available that day. Unfortunately, I have an on-site with my team in San Diego for ServiceNow. I can either do the week before or the week after. So if we did, for example, July 25th, same time, slightly different place. The 25th we can do, or does that extend out too far for folks? 25th works for Lars. 25th is good for Daniel. Okay, let's count on the 25th then, as so July 25th as the next TC54 meeting.
Steve, if you would send a block your calendar already, that would be great. And then we can populate it with the Zoom link once I create a new one.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Same time. Does anyone have any questions on the updates for the TGs in terms of their formation and getting started? Any questions on what we're working on for CycloneDX 1.7? Any other questions? Okay. One thing that is related, so we can probably end early. There's no reason for us to keep on going. But one update that I want to provide is we're going to be, in addition to CycloneDX 1.7 development, we're going to be formally kicking off the Common Lifecycle Enumeration project within OWASP. This is a specification that is designed to capture life cycle events of a product or even a company, actually. The basic premise is to capture things like, has the name of the product changed? Is it now called, Acme Portal Server versus Acme Commerce Server, whatever? So names of products changing, bundling of products changing over time, M&As, so acquisitions of companies or intellectual property over time. This doesn't necessarily solve the naming problem, but it certainly helps a lot with all these. I'm going to call them corner cases, but they're not really corner cases because acquisitions happen all the time. Product renames happen all the time. These cases where, if you're using common platform enumeration or CPEs or pearls, it really makes it difficult to determine if you have vulnerabilities in a product if you no longer know the name of that product or who made it. Right. So being able to capture these life cycle events is something we're going to be working on within OWASP, in addition to all these naming and bundling and all these other kinds of use cases that we're considering. We also have, what we call milestones. These are things that happen at a point in time. For example, when did the product begin development? When did it start its marketing effort? When did it, retire its marketing effort? When did it retire its sales? When does it end of life? When does it end of support? When does it end of guaranteed support, which are two different concepts? So being able to capture all those events in the product life cycle is something that we also are trying to capture. It's for the most part, it's an event-based model that tries to capture everything that kind of transpires for a product in a time series type of way. So you can reconstruct on a timeline all the different events that have transpired. So that's something we're going to be working on. I mention it because it ties in a lot with the supply chain efforts that we're currently working on TC54 with Pearl and the Transparency Exchange API. In fact, the Transparency Exchange API actually does have preliminary provisions to include lifecycle events. So at some point in time, once we get a little bit further with the community aspect, at some point in time, I'm going to be bringing in CLE for a formal vote for this TC to form a TG3 or whatever it ends up being, right? So I mention it because I'm going to eventually kind of bring this or want to bring this up for a vote in a future TC call. But the community still needs to do a lot of groundwork to kind of get it off the ground first before we bring it into this effort. Any questions on CLE? I know Jan posted a link to CLE in the chat. Yes, Oasis has another standard. Unfortunately, it doesn't carry time series, and it's really only focused on like end of life and the support. So it's essentially a subset of kind of what we're working on. They had their meeting yesterday. Okay, and a bunch of issues, open questions. Interesting. Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Lars. I appreciate it. I'll follow up on that link later. Any new orders of business anyone wants to bring up today? All right, I hear none. We can probably adjourn early. So thank you all for your continued collaboration. Truly appreciate it. I will go ahead and send out the invite for the placeholder for the 25th of July. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you,
you.
everybody, for your efforts, and we will keep you posted on the results.
Yay.
Thanks, Steve.
All right,
Thank you.
cheers.